recap on last episode. So I crashed my car onto a wild boar. Thankfully, my insurance covered for a rental car which we drove and stopped by Rotorua before we headed back to Te Puke. I had to buy a new car to continue going to work. I returned the rental car at Tauranga after work. Back in Te Puke, the kiwi fruit repack season has ended for most of the people.
Memory is on this road, every mile a new scene, sweat and gas and gasoline, dreams and tunes so keen, we're bound for the unknown. Going down south, let's go, feel that rhythm flow, music blasting.
Oh, here's a sneak peek inside the freezing cold cool store where they stored pallets of kiwi fruits before exporting to other countries. After a few days, I invited a few friends to go to Taupo to get my stuff in my old car that was towed to a scrap yard there. After that, we went to Hookah Honey Hive to look at bees. Yeah, well, I wanted to taste some free Manuka honey anyways.
Going down south, let's go, feel that rhythm flow, music blasted, so let the journey start.
And this is the Manuka honey rating. The higher the rating, the higher the price. Watch my first rugby match between Brisbane Broncos versus New Zealand's Warriors. Interesting blood orange. It's bloody damn good, I'll say. My last day in Sika Transpac season 2023. I will be back. And so it begins my adventure to South Island. First stop was Rotorua, Centennial Park. It had an amazing peach blossom since it was spring in September.
Running wild, my story told. I just wanna run free, feel the wind in my hair, nothing can break me. I'm beyond all despair. Dark clouds drift, but I will shine. Strength within this heart of mine.
Next stop is Waipunga Falls. It was pretty meh for me, but maybe because I did not went down to the waterfalls.
Mountains climb, I won't slow down. In the rain, I wait.
Next stop is Napier. I stopped by Otatara Pa Historic Reserve Walk. So a pa is a fortified defensive settlement used by the Maoris hundreds of years ago. And this place is bounded by cliffs and steep spurs, the hills, where the pas were established, so it could be easily defended, providing an ideal base for people who wish to use and protect the wetlands. So this pa complex became the largest defensive settlement in Hawke's Bay and one of the largest in Aotearoa.
Even when the nights are cold, every step I on my road, oh, in my veins the fire grows.
see the stunning views of the ocean.
Miles to go, but understand. Heartbeat strong, my soul is bold. Running wild, my story told. I just wanna run free, feel the wind in my hair. Ooh, nothing can break me. I'm beyond all despair. Dark clouds drift, but I will shine.
Next, I went to Bluff Hill Lookout. It was once the site of an artillery battery. This historic lookout provides a sweeping view of the oceans. Pretty chill here.
In my steps I find my grace. Mountains climb, I won't slow down. In the rain I wear no frown.
After that, I went down to Perfume Point.
One man road I'm pushing through.
Car packed and ready now, highway calling loud and clear. Freedom riding near, destination out of sight. Windows down, wind and hail, sunshine everywhere.
And I found some classics along the way to art galleries and museums. MTG Hawke's Bay, Creative Arts Napier. I kept on exploring and I came to this marine parade. It has a nice beach vibe which reminded me of Kuantan. The buildings around Napier have their own style of design, I would say. I met up with my friends, we hang out at their place for a while, and I put up a night at a freedom camping spot. The next day I woke up early and drove to Te Puke to catch the sunrise, but to no avail. It was raining and cloudy. But the view was just as spectacular.
Sunshine everywhere, map don't need no care. We're chasing daylight. Going down south, let's go. Feel that rhythm flow. Music blasted, so let the journey start. Let the journey start.
Totara Falls. If it was summer, I definitely would not hesitate to jump in.
One man road I walk alone. Peace I find within the tone. Hardships come, I stand my ground. Freedom calls, I hear the sound. Sunset skies and open sand.
Arataki Honey Visitor Center. They have varieties of honey selection, but of course I only came for the free tasting. You could really taste the difference in each bottle.
Running wild, my story told. I just wanna run free. Feel the wind.
I continued my journey to Hastings and I came to Ngapo'o Heretonga. This landmark installation had 18 carved wooden posts. These carved wooden posts, also known as po whenua, were used by Maoris to mark territorial boundaries of places of significance. The details on the carving are amazing.
In my steps I find my grace. Mountains climb, I won't slow down. In the rain I
Peach
wear
blossom
no
along the
frown.
street as well.
Bold and fearless, wild and true. One man road I'm pushing through. Through the lows and highs I'll go, even when the nights are cold. Every step I own my road, in my veins the fire grows. Through the lows and highs I'll go, even when the nights are cold. Every step I own my road.
After that, I went to Cornwall Park. It's a very spacious park with open field, a water fountain, children's playground,
Through the lows and highs I'll go. Even when the nights are cold.
random Chinese pavilion as you see here, and even has a bird aviary. The rain did not stop me from visiting these places. After a quick lunch, I drove to the longest place name in the world.
Taumata, whakatami, hanga, kōauau, o tamatea, turi, pūkaka, pīki, maunga, horo, nuku, pōkai, whenua.
Kitana Tahu. More hours of driving later, I reached Masterton and camped at Henley Lake to end the day. It was freezing cold that night with 4 degrees Celsius and wind howling at 20 to 30 kilometers per hour. The next day I wanted to catch the sunrise at Castle Point Lighthouse, but I underestimated the time needed to reach there. As I arrived there, the radiant bright sun just above the horizon shined and gave life to the quiet beach town. The views were stunning.
Mountains climb, I won't slow down. In the rain, I wear no frown. Oh, bold and fearless, wild and true. Oh, one man road I'm pushing through.
Car packed and ready now, highway calling loud and clear. Freedom riding near, destination out of sight. Windows down, wind and hair, sunshine everywhere, map don't need no care.
I stumbled across the next place, Stonehenge Aotearoa. It contains 24 pillars and is 30 meters in diameter and about 4 meters high. The pillars are capped with lintels, completing the circle, and a 5 meters tall obelisk is near the center of the henge. From the obelisk, along the meridian line is a 10 meters area called the analemma. Outside the circle of the henge stands 6 hill stones of varying height that mark the place where the sun is rising and setting at solstices and equinoxes. It's a very cool place to learn about the cycles of nature, movement of celestial bodies, and archaeoastronomy, how our ancestors have understood the phenomena in the sky, how they use these phenomena, and what role the sky play in their cultures. Before continuing on to Wellington, I stopped by another lighthouse, Cape Palliser Lighthouse is located in a quite remote area, which I had to drive through some gravel road, but it was worth it. Freaking high stairways and up I went. I felt the scenery at the top was not as impressive, and with the wind gusting constantly that almost blew me head off.
One man road I walk alone. Peace I find within the tone. Hardships come, I stand my ground.
To my surprise, just by the shoreline, there were plenty of fur seal resting while basking under the sun. Google Maps tagged them as sea lions, but I think they were fur seals. Any Nat Geo expert can share?
Miles to go, but understand. Heart beats strong, my soul is bold. Running wild, my story told. I just wanna run free. Feel the wind in my hair. Nothing can break me. I'm beyond all despair. Dark clouds drift, but I will shine. Strength within this heart of mine. Paths untraveled, I will chase. In my steps, I find my grace. Mountains climb, I won't slow down. In the rain, I wear no frown. Oh, bold and fearless, wild and true. Whoa, one man road, I'm pushing through. Through the lows and highs I'll go, even when the nights are cold. Every step I own my road, in my veins the fire grows. Through the lows and highs I'll go, even when the nights are cold. Every step I own my road, in my veins the fire grows. Through the lows and highs I'll go. Even when the nights are cold. Every step I own my road. Oh, in my veins the fire grows. One man road I walk alone. Peace I find within the tone. Hardships come.
After a long drive, I reached the windiest city in the world, Wellington. Had my fancy pricey dinner at Crab Shack. That was delicious. I had trouble to find a place to stealth camp because most of it were paid parking spaces and at a slope, but I finally managed to find a spot for the night. This is the windiest city in the world, alright? Stay tuned to find out whether I managed to board the cruise on time.